Hey there, beautiful teachers. You are watching a Vibrant Music Teacher Chat. This is the weekly show here on YouTube where we go through some news and the latest goings on in the music teaching industry, as well as discussing a special topic each week. This week, it's time management, all of our favorite topic. And we also do web reviews to learn about marketing together, and we have an Ask Me Anything section at the end. So if you're watching this on the replay, see if you can join us live next time. You'll see the timestamp on this video. Now today we're talking about time management, which I'm really excited about, and I would love your thoughts on your tips for time management if you have some. Is there a special way that you've saved time or made it make more sense for you in your studio? And your struggles. What can I help you with? How can I assist you to the best of my ability to manage your time better? Because it is management. It's not inventing time. People sometimes think I have a magic button. I don't. We all have to manage our time and find ways to make it work for us in the best way that we can with the responsibilities that we have and everything else we have going on. So let me know what's going on for you, what are you struggling with, and what have you found success with? And before we get to all of that, we'll jump into some news. Alright, so let me know your news. What have you been doing? I have been getting ready for a new year of teaching. So there's lots to do with that. I can share more about that in a second and what that entails, but many of you know. But many of you also know this, which is that my biggest news and the reason I'm wearing my shiny gold lipstick is, well, I'm wearing it because it's sunny outside and fun, but also because it's another piece of sunshine. You ready? Have you seen it yet? This is my brand new book. It released today. Now, platforms are finicky, but what I want you to do is choose your favorite book platform, Kindle, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, wherever you like, okay? Wherever you normally order books, go there and search for it. Practice Pie. Easy title to remember, I hope. Practice Pie. Okay? Search for it because I could have shared links to all the different stores, but number one, that's awkward to do. Number two, it's actually better for the book's visibility if you search for it, search for Practice Pie, or even search for piano practice, and then click on the result, because that shows that book website that that was the right result, that that's what you wanted. So I know it seems a little bit silly, but it does make a difference. And the reason I don't normally do that, I normally include links for convenience and stuff, but I'm asking you to do that this time because this book is not for you. It's for parents. And we all want it to be as visible as possible. I hope you'll agree once you've read it. We all want it to be as visible as possible so that parents read it, so that we have more supportive parents in our studio, right? This is for all of us. It's not for me. I mean, it's dirt cheap. I hope you'll agree. It's very affordable. I'm not making much money off this. The point is to get it into parents' hands all over the world so that they can support their child in music. And with that in mind, it is this size. I mean, I know scale is hard to gauge, but it's little. Okay? If I hold it up, it's like, it can't even hide my nose. I know I've got a big-ish nose, but it can't hide it, right? Don't know how else to show scale right now, but that is very thin. So the point is, they can read it in an hour. Most average readers can read this in an hour flat. That's it. That's all you're asking of them, an hour of reading. Total. Now they have another option. I have also recorded an audiobook of this. I don't normally do that because it's not very cost effective for the market that we're in. But again, I want to get it into as many parents' hands as possible. So if any parents in your studio prefer to listen, and that's going to be more accessible to them, like on their commute, if they're commuting at the moment, or while they're coming back from dropping the kids to school, that kind of thing, if that's convenient for them, while they're cleaning the house like me, that's when I listen to audiobooks. Again, it is an hour of their time. That's it. And they can be doing other things at the same time. The audiobook is only $5.50. Now it is already available in Google Play and Chirp, like a bird chirps. CHIRP. The audiobook is going to take a little bit longer to hit the other audiobook stores. I have no control over that. That's a weird thing that came out of the pandemic, is all the audiobook processing slowed down. You would think that's not a thing that could be affected by in-person stuff, right? But somehow it was. So I can't control that, but it is already on Google Play and Chirp, so you can get it there. And if you're on the email list, you will already have this info in your email. I'm just laying it all out there because I want to get this into parents' hands, and I hope that after you read it, you will too. Okay, so that's Practice Pie. That's my biggest news of this week. It is pretty big for me. I love bringing out a new book and love is a strong word. I anticipate bringing out a new book and start getting a little bit nervous that people are going to hate it, but I hope you love it. I think it's a fun read. So, the other thing I've been doing is a little bit funny, but I wanted to share it with you guys. I got back from my little mini break last week, and I just had it in my head to create these. I'm not sure how well this is going to show up now. We'll see if we can make it focus. Anyway, yeah. Oh, there's even a stray thread there, so you can see how recently I've been creating this. But it says Piano Pal, and I've been making these little capes. I don't make the teddies. I had random animals, and so I've been making these little capes. They were going to be bandanas, but then the scale was impossible So, capes. And the Piano Pals are going to go home with my newest students this year to help them establish a practice habit. So this is not something that's on the blog or membership or anything yet, because it's just a random idea I had that I'm testing out. But what I'm going to do is lend them one of these for the first month, maybe 2 months. And they need to keep it in their room or in their living room, sitting up where it's watching them. And then when it's time to practice, they take it over to the piano and it's there sitting beside them to help them practice. And then they put it back in its home spot. That's the idea anyway. We'll see how that fares. So yeah, that's been my little sewing project just for funsies. And my big project has been the book lately, so I'm glad to get that out into the world. We also had a few new resources released since I last spoke with you. We had an interesting post, I hope you'll agree, about yoga in the piano studio and its role. And I see actually that Chloe is here. Chloe, have you seen my post? I'm sure you'd have even more interesting takes on it. But yeah, it's about the role yoga could play in different ways in your studio, even if you're not, like Chloe, an amazing yoga practitioner or yogi. But it could be fun. It's a few different tools that I think can be useful even if you don't practice yoga yourself. So that's over on the podcast/blog. And then we had a new YouTube video. Couple of new ones actually. We edited down the interview with Shelley Davis, which she actually reviewed the book, so it's her quote on the back from the Piano Parent podcast. But her interview is just up now as a shorter condensed version after we did the show together. And then we have a video about the best instrument for piano students. So this is another one that you could spread to parents, right? So it's about the difference between digital and acoustic and hybrid, and if you have parents who are muddled about it or asking you for advice, this might be a good place to direct them. We also, by the way, have an article that's useful for parents that I send to parents all the time when I have the call with them and they say, oh yeah, we have a keyboard, I think it'll be grand for starting out. And then I have to say, no, that's not fine. It's not weighted, it's only 60 keys or whatever. So I have a post that I always send to them. It's at colourfulkeys.ie/piano. It's just /piano because it's about pianos. So that's how it ended up. colourfulkeys.ie/piano if you want to see that article. It's directed to parents directly and goes through like what weighted keys are and a few different suggested models for them. Yeah, and then next week on the show, we're going to be talking about practice, following on from the release of Practice Pie. So this is not for parents, this is for you guys. If your piano students are not practicing, if you have chronic non-practicers, let's go through some few different solutions together next week, and I hope you'll come armed with some of your perspectives on that as well. I'm really looking forward to that one. And So that's next week. So today we're talking about time management. If you do want to get your hands on the book, just search for that. And I will mention one other thing about the book that I forgot, which is if you want to get more than one copy. So a few teachers wanted to buy a whole bunch, especially maybe after you've read the ebook yourself. You want to buy a whole bunch of hard copies and give them out to parents in your studio. That's what I'm going to be doing here. So if you want to do that, you can get a discount for a bulk order. If you go over a certain number, it'll give you a 5% discount, then a 10% discount. You see what I mean? So that's in the Colourful Keys store only. You need to go to colourfulkeys.ie/shop. And that's the place to get, or just click through on the Colourful Keys site to the shop side of things, because I can't offer a discount anywhere else. They don't let me. So you have to order from there, but it might work out cheaper for you. Do test it versus Amazon if you have free shipping on Amazon. One or the other may be cheaper depending on how many you order, right? The discount might work out cheaper, it might work out more expensive with the shipping. So test them. I don't mind where you order it. It's wherever it's best for you. Okay, so let's talk about time management. Time management for music teachers is a conundrum because we are so many different things, aren't we? We are accountants, some of us, if we don't have a separate accountant, and bookkeepers. We are admin staff. We are professional emailers, it feels like. We also have to organize all of our lesson resources and do the lesson planning and communicate with parents about stuff to do with lessons or directly with students. And we have to actually teach too, right? So that last part, that's the non-negotiable. It's the rest of our time. How do we budget the rest of our time to manage it so that we get everything done and we don't feel like we're always working? Because it's so easy for us to do that, isn't it? Does anyone feel like they are constantly working because they work from home? I feel like this got worse in COVID, even for us. As people who normally work from home, our worlds shrank, right? It got even tougher to separate things. Even though we were teaching maybe in the same space, we weren't going out as much. We didn't have as much going on outside to pull us away from teaching. I know for me, travel was a huge one. If I don't have travel to pull me away from my studio, it's very hard for me to take extended breaks. I take time off, but breaks? Those are tough if I don't leave my house. And if there's nowhere to go, it's hard to do that. So was it worse for you? Was it harder to manage your time and still take time off? Or did you find a better balance? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I have a few different foundational elements that I want us all to keep in mind. And then I'd love to do a brainstorming session with you guys to see what ways we can better manage our time as teachers. So my first step for you is to prioritize. For real this time. Did you know that priority used to be, it literally meant it was one thing? I don't think most of us use that word that way anymore at this stage, but that's where it came from. It was supposed to be the one thing, the most important. It wasn't supposed to be a big, giant, long list of priorities. That doesn't count. So when I say prioritize, I actually mean make a list of all of the things you could be doing with whatever given time, whether that's right now or Tuesdays at 2, and actually prioritize the list. If I could only do 3 things, or if I put these things in the order of priority, what comes at the top, and then so on and so forth. Because too often, if you don't prioritize consciously, if you're not careful and intentionally prioritizing, who decides what comes first? The person who shouts the loudest, or the thing that shouts the loudest in your brain. And that's not a useful way to plan your time, but it can end up happening, right? Put your hand up if you struggle to prioritize and actually stick to the priorities. It's a tough one to do, but when you really do it, it's so empowering. And often when you come back to that list later, The big giant list of all the things that you could be doing. This is what I make, by the way, when I feel overwhelmed. I make a list of everything. Okay, these are all the things that are swarming around my brain that I could be doing. And then I prioritize and pick the things that I'm actually going to do. And I put the list aside. It's still there. I still have this list of all the things if I want them. But if you finish the priorities and then come back to the list, what you may find is that some of them don't even matter anymore. They were just noise. They were just nonsense. And you can just cross them off and go skipping along and go play with your dog instead, because they were just mess. And all of us build up these things that seem so important, but they're not. They're just urgent. And to do things that are urgent but not important, I mean, that's not a good way to spend our time, is it? Okay, next foundation. Pacman. Know your vices. What? I don't know why, but when I started thinking about vices and what I wanted to talk about here, Pacman just jumped into my head. Oh, Pacman, jumping along, or like, what's he doing? Sliding along, I guess, floating along and eating all these vices. Just popped into my head, thought it was a good image. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about understanding the things that distract you and controlling for those. Not relying on yourself to have more self-control or be more deliberate or just be better, right? That's just a recipe for being mean to yourself later. If you have certain things that it is hard for you to manage, in a lot of cases, you should just remove yourself from that situation. Speaking of dogs, if you're training a puppy, a lot of the advice around training them not to eat your shoes or do other undesirable behaviors is just to control their environment. Just put them in a pen. Don't let them have the shoes. It's too hard for them to control themselves, and we all have things where we are like that little puppy, right? So control it. What is it for you? Some common ones are checking your email obsessively, even when there's nothing there. You open it and you like pull down at the top. Is that you? Or do you check Facebook far too much and just scroll through the feed? You don't even have any notifications. You're just reading random Facebook posts from your friends, or maybe it's loads of different music teacher groups that you're a part of, and it's just people venting about various different things. It doesn't particularly improve your mood, and you don't even comment on them, but you're just scrolling. Or maybe it's the same thing, but it's Instagram, and it's the beautiful pictures, and oh my gosh, I wish my life looked like that. What's your vice? It doesn't have to be digital. Maybe your vice is baking. Maybe you distract yourself by doing things around the house. That's a big one for many people at the moment. They get out of work by doing other work that doesn't actually need to be done, like cleaning your fridge or baking scones or something else. I'm not saying don't bake scones. Do that for your own pleasure. And I'm aware I say scones and most people say scones, and let's not have that conversation. But if you want to bake scones, bake scones. But do it as a pastime, as something you actually enjoy, and let yourself enjoy it and decide you're going to do it. Don't think all the time, yes, I am doing this, but I should, in a second, I'm going to make my timetable. I'm going to do it. In a moment, I will. No, just enjoy the task. If you're going to look at Facebook with intention. But know the things that distract you and are vices in the wrong context. What is your vice? What is it for you? Lee said I got her. I hope it wasn't on the baking scones. Because if so, send us some. That's delicious. That's a great vice to have in a lot of cases. But you can see how anything can get in the way and be a distraction rather than a useful activity. Okay, right now. Or back to the universe. What am I talking about here? I mean all those ideas you were scrolling past in your vice a second ago. If it's not for right now, And that doesn't have to mean this minute, but if you can't see in the foreseeable future, this is when I'm going to use this idea, this resource, this book, this whatever. If you don't have a spot to put it in your schedule, just let it float on by you and think, oh, that's lovely, and let it go back into the universe and know that it will come back to you. I'm not normally this kind of, oh, the universe, and I don't mean it like that. I'm not actually that woo-woo. But I do think there's value to thinking of it like this. Just think of these things as floating on by you if this is a problem for you, right? Does anyone know what I'm talking about here? It's that Pinterest post that you open up and somebody's using that pop-it thing and you think that is so cool and you don't use it at all. Right? That's my solution anyway. So is anybody guilty of this? I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. It can be really tough to let things go, but if you get in the habit of it, it gets way easier. It's like when I used to have a lot lower of a budget back when I was in college, and I just got myself out of the habit of buying clothes or buying other luxury things. And when you're not in the habit of it, it doesn't even occur to you to do it. It's just that initial building of the habit of you just let things flow by you, and then you know they'll flow back to you later, or there'll be a new, even better idea, because we all have no shortage of ideas right now. That's not what we need. We need time. And my last one, so let's look at the collection together, is systems. Systematizing things is not dehumanizing them. We're all in a very human business, and I don't want to take away from that. And I don't want you to think that I'm saying we shouldn't care about our students or interact with them one-on-one. But what you build systems for is everything else. This is what the course inside Vibrant Music Teaching called Sustainable Studio Systems is all about. It's about building those checklists and automated systems that when you get a new student, I'll give you an example that I'm using a lot right now. When I get a new student, I use a program called ClickUp, which is like Asana, but I prefer it. So I use ClickUp and I duplicate a template task that I have for a new student, and I write the new student's name at the top. So duplicate the task, write Jacinta, and then I just change the top date to Jacinta's third lesson. That's the way my system works. And all the other tasks come into line with when I should do them for Jacinta. So it'll tell me when I need to email the parent with Jacinta's login details for Tanara. It'll tell me when I need to put together her pack with her folder and t-shirt. All of the different things. And it's not just me in my case either. I also have an admin assistant who's going to add her details into a couple of systems we use, like My Music Staff and MailerLite. You see how having that system in place means that I can spend more time and energy on actually interacting with Jacinta and having real conversations with her parents and actually doing my job, the bit only I can as the human. Right? So if there's anything you repeatedly do, even if it's a little bit different each time, please find a way to systematize it. The next time you do it, write down the steps that you're doing, and then you can create a repeatable process from that. I hope that helps you. I would love to answer any other time management troubleshooting questions for you in our Ask Me Anything section, so make sure to ask those questions. Right now, we're going to go into our web review. So let's get going with that. Here's the thing about the web review today. I didn't have anyone to review. I didn't think we'd ever run out of people because that Facebook post was so packed, but my assistant told me there was no one new there. And so that means that previous ones that are there that we might not have gotten to, there was an error with loading the website. So If you haven't added your website to that post and you would like me to look at it on the show, you can find the link to the Facebook post below. What we're going to do today is look at my site. So I'm going to put myself onto the chopping block, as it is affectionately known. And we're going to see what needs doing on my website, because I want to be an example in this. My website is not perfect. No website is ever perfect, right? So let's look around the studio side of my Colourful Keys site and see if I fill these criteria. You can call me out on anything. You can ask, why did you put that there? And I might say, I don't know, it seemed good at the time, but it looks terrible. So just feel free to give me feedback as we go through, and I'll talk about why I put things where I did or what I might like to improve as we go through. All right? Hopefully you're up for this. It's a bit of an improvised idea today, but I hope it's useful for you guys. So here we go. This is the Colourful Keys site, and ignore the top, that's just because I'm logged in as the admin. And this is what you land on the homepage. Now, I am a little bit different in that I have to manage a teacher side with the blog and the student side. So this is the way I handle it. On the homepage, it says learn the creative way, teach the creative way. In many cases, people won't even arrive on the homepage. They'll arrive at a specific lesson page, but this gives them somewhere to go that's as clear as possible while still being fun, I think. Okay, so if I click on Learn the Creative Way, we're going to go to the main studio page, but I will scroll down to show you guys. So I have a few testimonials here. I have a button to join the waiting list. I have some elements of what we do. And then at the bottom I have a concert video. That's something that probably needs updating, but I haven't done because online concerts and things have different privacy concerns. So eventually I'll update that to a more recent concert. And then I have a few photos of group lessons down the bottom and some more info on that. So when I go on and on about having enough text on the page, this is kind of what I mean. There's a lot more actual words here than maybe we see on a lot of the websites we review. Not a ton, it's not an essay, but there is enough that Google can see what's going on, and so can people who actually view it. Now let's click on Learn the Creative Way. And so this is where we arrive. I actually have an updated video for this one. It's just almost there. It's being uploaded almost as we speak. So yeah, this will be updated and it'll be my new studio space and slightly better lighting and slightly more wrinkles on my face because that's a while ago. And there's a big button to join the waiting list and some information about lessons. I have a section here about online lessons because I want to make sure people know that we know what we're doing, that we have systems in place, although we are able to offer in person right now as we speak. And then I have some information about the different lesson options. So this is about buddy lessons, which is my primary lesson format, and then a bit about adults, but there's another whole page about that, specifically about it, and then some more general information about our teaching approach. I also mentioned exams there to be clear to parents who are after that, and practice. I don't expect most people to get to the bottom of this page. That's pretty rare, I'd say, but it does give them enough to read if they want to read more. I also have a separate page about preschool piano, adult piano, FAQs, so we'll look at these. This is about preschool piano. It basically is here to explain why preschool piano is a good idea, and then go through mini musicians versus buddy lessons for the youngest students and why you would choose one or the other. And then I have adult piano because I wanted to specifically talk to those adults who are interested in lessons, because I feel like in a lot of cases it's just at the bottom of the page it goes, yeah, and we also take anyone of any age, and they don't feel very catered to. So I have a specific page that's for them that's a little bit different in vibe. I have my fees on my website. Yes, I do. People might know my feelings on that, but I do believe in putting them on there because I want people to only get in touch with me when they definitely can afford lessons here. Not that it's unlikely that they could, but if they're looking for the most budget option, I'm not that, and I want that to be clear. I also know how frustrating it is as a consumer. Especially this came up for me when I planned my wedding, which is a while ago now. But when I planned my wedding, I got so irritated with websites not having their prices on there for things where they could at least give me a range, you know? And I was calling them, and then they were way outside of my budget because, I mean, I was young when I got married. I didn't have a ton of money to play with. So that was just a waste of everyone's time. That's how I see it anyway. So then FAQs just runs through some common questions, as you might expect, and links to a few other places. And then we have the waiting list form, which is a button right here. This is my Music staff form, so they fill this in if they're interested in lessons, and then they automatically get an email from me to say that they need to expect to wait a long time and that when to expect to hear from me, etc., etc. I also link in that email to the keyboard and piano buying guide in case they don't have that base covered. So that's a tour of most of my lesson pages, apart from the About page. So when I talk about a simple menu, this is what I'm looking at. You'll have seen on the homepage it looked different, but that's because it also has the blog stuff there. Once you click through to a lesson page, this is all you're seeing, because I think that's all parents actually need to see. And then here I tell more of my story and the background of the studio, as well as some information about the studio and our other teachers there. Yeah, so this is the other menu that you can sometimes see that shows more, but if I'm on a lesson page, I'm only going to see those key bits of information right there. While we're here, I might as well show you where the book is in case you're looking for it. So you go to store here, and then I thought it would be at the top, it's not. Oh, it's on page 2. There we go. There's Practice Pie, if you're looking for that. And I can show you in my basket actually. So you just add it to basket, add as many as you want. In my basket there's 24, so that's the price being reduced based on the 15% discount, and you'll see the postage there. So you can work out which is going to be cheaper for you if you are balancing Amazon versus my site. So that's my site. I hope that tour was useful for you guys. As I said, you can go back and go to the Facebook post and have me review your site, or we can replace this whole segment. This show is your weekly show. It's not about me or anything else. It's about what you want to see. So if there's something that you would love to see us do every week, tell me. I would love to hear it. Right now, though, let's go into our Ask Me Anything. Okay, so let's look for the questions. You can ask your question by just starting with the word question and then writing it to make sure I get it. Follow up on anything or ask me something random. I don't mind. So Mika said, how do you implement a waitlist and enrollment form on your website? Okay, so you just saw my waiting list form. My enrollment form is separate. That only goes to parents when they already have a spot that we've planned and we've already met together actually. So it goes to returning students' parents, but then for new students, I mean, I only send them the link to that when we've already agreed everything and I've already met them on Zoom to talk through everything. So that's 2 different systems, so I'll just explain them to you. The waiting list is through My Music staff. That form is created by My Music staff. If you use that service, you just go to website in the left-hand menu, I believe, and that's where you can find the code that you can put into your web page. My enrollment form, I use Gravity Forms, which is a WordPress plugin. The reason I use that rather than Google Forms or anything else is because of the particular way that I do the checklist. So in case it'll be useful for you, I might just load it up so you can see, because I know sometimes you will find it helpful to see this form. I know people have in the past anyway, so I'll show you that guy. Okay, so this is what it looks like. They fill in all their details. It's this part that I can't do with a Google form. So that's me being very particular and also already having a form system that can do this. and I know how to do it, right? So it's partially just my knowledge already being there. But I have them untick the times that don't work. And that is the bit that I can't do in Google Forms. I can have tick boxes, and you could have tick boxes if you want to use Google Forms. It might be the simpler option for you, or something like that, right? The reason, by the way, it's not showing Monday is because we only teach at students' houses on Monday, if you were curious about that. Yeah, so that is Gravity Forms, and the other one is my music staff. Hopefully that answers your question, Mika. Lee, I was listening to one of your podcasts about flex time in your studio calendar. You asked this, I was going to answer this in the community, I saw it earlier. When do you schedule recitals? Since your last week of lessons may be different. Okay, so you've actually asked it even with more clarity this time, which is great. So I don't have recitals at the end of the semester anyway. I never have. It's never been the last week. So that might clear that up for you, Lee, if that's why you're asking the question. It was never the last week. Because, like you say, if I don't use that flex time, which is like the holiday pay time, if you want to think about it that way, and people can listen to that podcast if they're curious about more details on that system. But if I don't use that, we might finish a week earlier, as we did last year. Actually, it was 2 weeks early last year because none of us used any days at all. But we might finish earlier. But I always have my recitals. My spring one is in May, and I run up until the end of June in general. So they would never clash with each other. Does that make sense? Let me know. And the last question that I have here is from Jana. Do you have an actual way of seeing priorities? A handwritten list, a calendar, an app, or something? Okay, so my priority list is only when I'm feeling overwhelmed by stuff. In general, my brain is pretty good at prioritizing by itself, probably because I've been managing things like this for quite a while now. But so I have in mind what my priorities are. When I start to feel all floopy, that's when I make a big list. And that is just in a notebook. Or even like one of these pads, right? It's just on some piece of paper in a notebook. And that's where I prioritize. And I'd leave it open. Or I'd put it away if I've decided this top one thing is a priority and I need to ignore everything else for now until this gets done. I just put it away and I can look at it later. But I don't have an ongoing system that's like always in front of me because most of the time I don't need that. It's kind of a backup option for when I'm feeling that overwhelmed. Hopefully that clears that up, Jenna. Let me check for final questions. Oh, there was something about Tanara, was there? Yes, Shelley. That you started using Tanara. Do you have a review of that? What's your thoughts about Tanara? Do you recommend it? I do. Jana said she might try and find it for you, but if you search, let's see if we search YouTube if we can find it. Yes. Okay, so I just typed in Tanara app review and we're 4th. So hopefully you can see my face and you'll know which one is me, or you could also check out the other reviews there. And you can see what I like about it and what I don't like about it. Whenever I do a review, I'm very clear about why I've continued using it and what would be even better about it or who it might work for. But if you have any follow-up questions, Shelley, just let me know. I do recommend it in a lot of cases, but it's not for everyone. Nothing ever is. So I've found success with it in my studio, but that's for my particular use case. Jana, so true, right? Maybe I will hit that in 10 years. Yes. And I think that's true of a lot of this time management stuff, is that we need to keep readjusting, right? So what I do now isn't the same as what I used to do. And it won't be the same in 10 years. I'm sure I'll have to change something. But we need to keep reassessing, like, what are the vices? What's distracting me? What are my actual priorities? And keep recalibrating. It's not about always being in balance. It's about finding your balance on any one given day or month or year. Okay, thank you all so much for joining me. I hope this was helpful. Oh, one final question, Kathy. It is in the description below if you're looking for that Facebook post. So thank you all so much for joining me. Next week we're talking about practice and your chronic non-practicers. You can pick up the book Practice Pie anywhere you get books. Just do a search for it and let me know if you can't find it where you like to buy books, and I'll see if we can make it available there too. Okay? Thank you all so much for joining me. Pleasure as always, and I'll see you next week.